startup nation? Well, the answer would be an overwhelming yes if you look at the number of startups, their incredible successes. Some say you must look at the failures as well because important lessons are being learnt every day. And of course, for me personally, the plethora of great ideas that the startup space is now throwing up. Well, this is a new India hoping to get itself firmly on the world map. That's what we're looking at today. All that it takes to be a part of a startup and how the startup is going to change the India story. A special panel now with me, Albinder Dhinsa, co-founder Grofers. You've been sort of hearing of Al's Grofers everywhere. You really couldn't have missed them, especially in the last couple of weeks. So there's really a concerted campaign out there. Ashish Chaudhary, co-founder and vice president, Sports365. Shivani Podar, co-founder FabAlley.com, and also Ishan Gupta, co-founder and CEO Educard. Thanks all so much for taking our time to speak to us. Ishan, first to you. Recent round of funding. You've been in the news. There's great funding coming your way. You've just said, you know, as you were speaking before the show, that there's little chance to soak it in. You're already thinking about the road ahead. Is it always going to be like this? I mean, are you ready for the road always sort of going to be full of, you barely have time to celebrate one success, you're already looking at your next challenges and, you know, where you want to head from here?
No, I think great question. I think funding is not a success. It's just it's a point on the journey. I think for us, we are in a category that we are creating right now, so getting more and more students online and helping them to figure out the right course for themselves. I think that's a category that is under creation. So yes, I think for the next couple of years, a lot of hard work has to be put in to get more course providers on our platform to help them get access and get students access to more courses. So I think it's going to be like this for some time.
It's going to be like this for some time. Albinder, how about you? You've sort of worked with Zomato. That's been your past. You're now with Grofers. Connected to food, but of course entirely different at what they do. What do you believe is sort of the one biggest challenge and one biggest success that people like you face?
Especially sort of given the India ecosystem, right? Like the infrastructure that you need to build successful companies, big companies, it just doesn't exist yet, right? So if you compare us to where a lot of more developed countries, even China is, I think we are sort of still very early in where the companies and entrepreneurs actually have a lot of the support that they need to build good companies. So I think what you spend a lot of your time doing as a founder is actually overcoming a lot of these infrastructure challenges, a lot of the vested interests that are already in the market. Disruption doesn't come easily to India, and I think it'll be a while before it does.
Right, but that has to be a part of the deal, right? Disruption has to come easily.
Yeah, it has to.
Get used to sort of creating, destroying, moving on. I don't know, creating. There's so much churn, but you don't feel there's enough churn already.
I don't think there's enough churn. I think it needs to be much higher. I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to take a lot more risks early on, right? I think there's a very healthy number of young people who are now actually coming out of college and starting companies. I think that number needs to be 100x of what it currently is for it to be significant.
Right. That's also one reason, because as I think as a society, we're not risk takers. We're not sort of, you know, it takes time to take risks. Most families are still saying, why don't you just try, you know, what say Ishan's offering, like just try your education, try a conventional thing. So people are still, I mean, we're not really a society that likes to take risks, Ashutosh, but do you think that's changing?
I personally think it's changing. The lead indicator here is you see a lot more young entrepreneurs coming in now. So, for example, someone like us, we studied, we were told that you study hard, you go to big companies, you make money. It took us 8 years to figure out that, you know, this is not my life's calling. And then suddenly after 8 years you figure out that, okay, let's follow your passion. Today, at least the lead market which I was talking about, people actually figure that out at the age of 23, 24. Right? And that to me is the biggest change which I witnessed today. The second thing is, you know, the kind of people that are today available to work in startup is also increasing. I mean, kids out of colleges now are really willing to work in a startup, and they actually see it as a fashion that, you know, I work with a startup, right?
Really? So it's getting in vogue. So
exactly.
That's always a good thing, isn't it, Ishan? I mean, in your experience, it's sort of now the cool thing to do, say.
No, I can draw contrast to 2004. I was in college in third year and I started my first company. And that time, like, I had to move not only my university, but also it was tough to get people to sort of work with us. Today, we are seeing top-notch talent within India, and guys who have been outside to come back and want to be part of this ecosystem. I think the other thing that has changed significantly is the availability of very, very early stage capital.
I see.
So I think just having that, you can then afford to give the market salaries to good talent. I think that's also important, right? Not everybody will get the same benefits out of working in a young company. So you do have to compensate your team in the right manner. And I think that availability of capital definitely helps in bringing
has that
talent.
been your experience as well? Because lots of people sort of say a couple of things, A, that I'm not sure if I can take the risk, B, if I am, but where will I end up in this road? Because there's no certainty. In any case, there's no certainty in anything about life, but perhaps the certainty even less.
Absolutely. I think I do feel that it's much easier now, and I think it's because Ishant just mentioned because of two things. One, it's easier to take risks because there's a lot of support in terms of money, in terms of angel investing, in terms of family support. I mean, 10 years back, you tell your family, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start up. They're like, you're losing your mind, and something seriously wrong. So I think that way it's changed a lot. People, we actually get calls from the top institutes, the top B schools every day saying that why don't you come for recruitment? And we are ourselves fairly early stage company, and which is why we
That's a huge shot in the arm, I'm sure.
Yeah, because a lot of people really want to work with startups. They want to so in fact I'm from FMS, and a lot of we see a lot of resumes of people who FMS grads, seniors, in fact working with about 5 to 10 years experience, but looking at moving to the startup sector. So I think that's something which is very interesting. So once you get the right people and the right capital, I think it's a company that one can build.
Right.
So,
on a previous show that we'd done, there were a group of students who said that the problem with, and this was their opinion, Arvinder, I'd like you to start answering this, and they said the problem is that you need to be from a top-end institution to even get your idea across to people who you want to invest. You've got to have say a Stanford there, an FMS, an IIT, an IIM background for people to sit up and take notice, or they're not really noticing you. I mean, how would you sort of honestly answer that?
I think there is a bias. I think we would be denying it if we said that there are not a disproportionate number of companies funded by founders from IITs. And
but do they necessarily? Are they necessarily the best, or the best ideas of the best?
No, I think what happens is that when people sort of come from a lot of these backgrounds, I think they just feel more comfortable taking a lot of the chances, right? If you just sort of look at number of IIT founders that are out there, of course they are I think there are a disproportionately high number of, because they sort of feel that they will get the funding. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy for them. It is unfortunate. I think there is, at least when I see within Grofers, a lot of our early talent, a lot of the people that have been with us for most of the journey, they're actually not from IITs, and they have probably a bigger role to play than Saurabh and I in actually building the company.
Ashutosh, what else sort of matters when you're looking to hire? We keep talking about this fire in the belly, but in an interview, 10 minute, 20 minute, maybe even half an hour, how do you sort of gauge it?
So to be very honest, we think that we haven't cracked it yet. I mean, we've had both type 2, type 1 errors in our hiring. Sometimes, and actually most of the times, actually we take a leap of faith. So as the panelists said here, that resumes after a few years doesn't really matter. It's just a conversation, and we are just looking at 2 or 3 things which indicates that there's a spark in the person, and he will be able to positively contribute to what we are building.
But Ishant, for all those who sort of keep writing into us to say, I have a great idea, and I believe that I have the next big startup story, but I don't know what to do next. Is an idea enough?
No, and of course an idea is not enough. I think
is it the most important? I mean, what are the top 4 things? Where does the idea figure?
So I think the most important thing is to get started, right? So I've seen 2 kinds of entrepreneurs. One is a very consulted types, right? So there will be a whole market analysis, what works, what may not work, looking at a lot of models, and that's one approach. The other approach is if you believe in something and you think that this can work, you might start it. So I would say start quickly and fail even more quickly, and that's what I would go with. So if you have an idea, go out there, start talking to people, figuring out what is the kind of reaction you are getting, and if you feel that there's something you want to do, jump in.
Shimani, what would you say?
So I think to me the idea is probably one of the most important things, because creating another brand or another company which already exists, which is already offering a similar service, to me does not, unless there is a unless there's a difference in terms of what you're doing and it's a differentiated offering in whichever way it is, whether it's service, product, however it is. To me, you'll just be another company. So which is why I feel like having a great idea at the beginning of it and being flexible that if that idea doesn't work, one may want to change it or one may evolve depending on how the market is and how you perceive how the market responds to the idea. So I think, but having that one idea and saying that this is what I want to do and something that you truly believe in is probably one of that's a starting step. That's the most important step. Would it be fair to say
that you sort of need a plan A, B, C, or does one not have to think so far? Put your heart and soul in plan A or be ready for plan B. How does it play out? Like, for instance, for you, when you made this wish to set up your company, sort of, one even think of failure at that stage?
I actually agree with Ishan that you sort of just have to take that leap and figure it out on the way down, that what's actually happening. I think execution matters a lot, right? Which is where sort of a lot of the biases and what is the people's background and sort of what kind of dedication they have to actually executing something. I think your idea should be original. It should be something that's disruptive, but that's not enough to make it successful, right? The only thing that will matter at the end of the day is how well are you able to execute, and execution can be, are you able to hire good people? Are you able to actually build a good product? Are you able to understand what your consumer actually wants?
Yeah, I think it's a function of opportunity cost. So, for example, I've been consultant all my life, right? And when we start out, you have to do a lot of sacrifices in terms of your lifestyle, etc., etc. So, actually, we set timelines. We say that okay, let's give it a shot for 24 months and see how it goes. And in between, we put some gating conditions like 12 months down the line we should have A, B, C, D to be able to move into the next 12 months. That's how we plan. Unfortunately, as we go on, and that's how Sports365 went on, we realized after 12 months all the criteria that we had set for the gate one weren't fulfilled, but we still said okay, let's take a leap of faith and let's do another 12 months. So we just kept adding 12 months to it, but at least ideally we would like to plan like that, but that hasn't happened in our case.
Is it possible to plan like that, Ishan? I mean, can you sort of really plan the next X number of months even after this round, if you're already worrying about what next? I mean, how much can you really plan?
I want to replace the word, it's about momentum, right? So I think, so for me it is not about worrying, it's more about the momentum. So we have momentum going on in something, some things are working well, and a lot of things may not be working well. But it doesn't matter, you build on what is working well. So you might have planned 10 things, and 3 out of them are working really well, 2 are okay, and 5 are not working. So you then focus on those 5 things, and then you start building more momentum on that. And I completely agree. So therefore your plan is going to change, your pitch deck is going to change, your pitch is going to change, and that's fine. I think it all comes down to the team, right?
Right, we take it from there. I have to slip into a quick break now. There's lots more coming up, including a couple of questions that some people who are calling themselves wannabe entrepreneurs have. I'm going to put that to the panel. Back right after this. Welcome back. We're looking at startups and all it takes to create the next big thing. Shivani, we're talking in the break about the need to respect failure, the respect for failure. It's okay, you do learn important lessons and perhaps you come out better, stronger, wiser, most importantly. But do you believe we're there?
So I think I agree with the first point that, so for me, for example, like what I've learned in the last 3 years running Fab is probably much more than what I've learned in my years before that working with many other companies. And which is what I feel that...
Why is that? Because there's a lot more at stake?
Absolutely. No, but more than that, when you're an entrepreneur, you do everything, right? So there's no function or there is no one thing that you look after. Right. The sense of responsibility towards yourself, the team, your investors, everything that you're building is way higher than what it is when you're one employee out of 5,000 employees in a larger setup. So I think for me the learning here has been much more. When it comes to failure, I feel personally that in India respect for failure is not there at all. If you even for companies, so if you're a failed entrepreneur, or if you, I don't want to call it a failed entrepreneur, if your venture didn't work, for example, the last venture didn't work, and you go in the job.
Think about failure as a term.
Yeah, it's just too negative. So if it's something that didn't work, and you go to the job market again after 3 years, saying this is what I've done, and probably you've learned much more than what it would have been had you been working somewhere else. I'm not so sure whether those 3 years will be valued at the same level in terms of the skill set, the salary, the position. I'm not so sure. So that's what I've heard. So
that's a good point to make, because the two people on the panel, I think, disagreeing. Ishant, quickly come in on that.
If somebody walks into my office and who has been an entrepreneur before, I think my conversation would simply be, tell me what you learned, and if it, whatever it, I mean, it would be around that, and I think for me that guy is going to get a job offer much faster than anybody else could get.
Because you believe that he's got some valuable lessons that have been learned with his experience.
Yeah, so I think he took the lesson of ownership, first of all, that what I'm doing is something that I own, and I think that is a great asset to have in every team member in a company which is sort of at our stages, and at any stage, but especially in the younger stage. So I would be very biased towards an entrepreneur.
Okay, fair enough. Alban?
Same here. I think failed entrepreneurs are actually very, very hireable people. But I actually agree with Shivani that this is a very bad sample set of people to actually have that conversation, because I think we've started companies, so we sort of know what goes in there, and we would probably be, it is sort of one of those things that we would affiliate with them a lot better. But I think it would be much harder for them if they go out on the job market, sort of with people who sort of never done a company, don't know sort of what goes into it. I mean, if you have to go to a manager at one of the 5,000 person companies and tell them you're a failed entrepreneur, I think they will look at you a lot differently.
Right. That's an important point to make. So perhaps all these people are looking at the startup space. As a result, I think they tend to move in the startup space and sort of also have some good success stories. I mean, there are enough who've sort of burned their fingers once and then come out really strong. But I want to ask each one of you, and I just want to play devil's advocate. You're all very successful, all doing very well, but sort of, and perhaps beyond the stage when you wake up at night in a cold sweat and where you're headed, but does it play on your mind that what if? I mean, who knows the scenario, right? What's going to happen tomorrow? Does it sort of play, or does there come a point where you're settled, you're confident, and it's okay, like whatever's thrown at me, I'll take it? How does it work?
To be honest, it does. I mean, sometimes you still feel that it plays in your mind, saying how will we grow, how fast will we grow, etc., etc. But having gone through the grind for about 3 to 4 years, I think you kind of settle into the space. It also gives you a lot of confidence. I mean, today wherever we've reached with whatever hard work, limited resources, etc., etc., now I'm much more confident of making it work.
We've got lots of people who've been writing into us to say that the problem is that I don't get the right team. It's very difficult to find the people. And I mean, we've got a whole number. I know this panel has had different views, but we've got a whole lot of people saying, we just can't find the right team. We can't find the right team. Without the right team, the greatest idea, the best money is nothing. Do you think that finding a right team is actually such a big challenge, or is it just?
So absolutely, I think it is initially it's a huge challenge. So when you just kind of start up and it's just you're alone, or there's just two founders there. So then so for us as well, when we started out, we were fairly young, and two of us starting out. So it was very difficult to get the initial set of people. So I think absolutely it's a challenge, but I do feel that it becomes much easier as you scale.
Isham, is a certain kind of personality traits, or is there a certain kind of person that you believe is not a fit in startups? Besides the hard work, I mean, we know that hard work is perhaps key. But lots of people keep saying that, what do I have to be like? And I can work hard. I'm not from tier 1. I'm not from the best, but there's something sort of that I need. I'm, team worker, I would imagine. What are the top couple of things
I think ownership is perhaps the most important, that what I'm doing, I'm going to do it really well and I own it. And that's very important, because companies at our stage don't have redundancy in the system, right? So they're not 3 people doing the same thing or sort of shared responsibility. So I think that is most critical. I think second is flexibility on the job role, because as the company evolves, the strategically it will change, the responsibilities will change. So you can't say, I came in with this job description, but today I'm doing this.
I think humility plays a big role in sort of hiring good people, especially early on, right? I also think that sort of hiring the right team is a big test for the founders themselves.
I guess actually I'm running out of time, but last words.
So you said most of the things, and I agree with it. I think the bigger challenge for us is to retain people. I mean, at least we tend to get good people around. What's happening is there's so many opportunities out there. We kind of put a bet on someone at a mid-management level or second tier, etc., and suddenly the guy goes out after 6 months. What do? Your plans, basically you get a setback of 2 to 3 months.
10 seconds to everybody. What the one thing that you've done right and the one thing that you've not done right, done wrong, Ishan, when you sort of look back today, or you wish that you had done differently?
I think the part that that I would think I've done right is getting the right people on the team, because they are the ones who are building the business. The part that I could have done better is get better people and more better people on team. It comes down to the team at the end of it.
Sure. So I think what we do feel that it's still a challenge with us is that we're not getting, the team needs to be much bigger, better, much more scalable in terms of the business. I think what we've done right is that we've got the right product, and that's what we feel at least. And with that, we feel that if that's there and we get a strong team, it's going to be a much more scalable business.
Okay, Ashutosh?
So one thing that we believe we've done right is followed our passion. Sports and fitness has been our passion right from the beginning, and it's a small category, but we still thought that we'll make a difference in this category. The thing that we haven't done right probably is that we weren't really aggressive.
So I think one of the things we did sort of right is spot the right opportunity very early on and actually take the leap. I think the wrong thing that we've probably done is not been sort of aggressive enough in sort of believing and saying that, okay, you know, we're going to go all chips in. I think even after we got started, we waited for almost a year to really make the big leap.
Put
and say that,
out there, right? Okay, but there are important lessons, like you're all saying, there's important lessons being learned every day just to make you wiser, better, and you know, more professional in the way things are run. But thanks also so much for taking our time to speak to us, and all the very best. Well, keep your thoughts coming in. I know many of you had loads of questions that you wanted answered. We're going to try and take them over our other panels, but thanks a lot for watching. Goodbye.